What do you think happens after we die?
I have no idea, but I think you should behave as though something does happen. What's that though?
I feel like you've been like a Jack in the Box where you're winded up and at any moment it's just going to come out.
I get tired of being all deep. It just drives me nuts. The way you fight a bear is you faint, you shit your pants and faint so that you don't die. So you're not conscious when he starts eating your legs first.
Wait, so you have to intentionally shit your pants?
With a bear, if a bear comes at me like any wild animal, I meet him halfway. I come at him with everything I got, and I lead with my heart, if you know what I mean. You know, you don't know what the fuck I mean. Of course you don't know. You would ball up, not me. I meet my death with my eyes open. Sorry, are we doing a podcast?
No, this is actually you just mentioned death. That's the theme of the podcast. So we're good.
Okay.
I didn't think about shitting your pants and talking about a bear, but this will have to do.
Yeah. It's all connected.
So I mentioned to you off the mic when I was listening to you on Rogan, their last appearance. You asked Joe about do you think about spirituality and God, and he kind of just shut you down. And I heard it in your voice that you wanted to talk about that.
Well, I've just been thinking about it a lot. I've been ruminating on the notion of the importance of a higher transcendent truth. So if you behave as though, let's say, the commandments are true, if you behave as though there is a God, and in other words, if you behave as though someone is watching you who's not human, and that see, I think we all know how to behave. I think all of us know we have nostalgia we have this sort of a priori, this like, before experience kind of idea. We have this inherent idea of what's right and what's wrong, right? If I'm being a dick, if I'm being jealous, if I'm being angry, if I'm treating somebody poorly, if I'm bullying somebody, you just know. You can justify it, but there's this sort of, I don't know, this sense, and maybe that's where guilt comes from and stuff. So I'm interested in why that is the case, and I think that is probably something close to we know all of us know that there's a better way if you move in this direction, it's better, and if you move in that direction, it's worse, right? So hookers in an 8-ball every night is not going to work out as well as working out and reading good shit, right? So it's like, I'm using extreme examples, but you can always extrapolate. You can just keep going in one direction or another. And I think that's kind of what I've been thinking about more and more as I get older.
And I guess you just answered my question there. I wanted to ask why you're thinking about that, but while you're on that topic, is there any subjectivity there in regards to nature versus nurture? So we have that like gut idea or that intuition of what is right and wrong, but what about people that are just raised a certain way and maybe they're taught to think what is good is bad and vice versa?
But see, even those people, right? So let's take extreme examples like, I don't know, the Nazis or the Japanese in World War II. I read a book called The Nobility of Failure where I read these haiku poems that the kamikaze wrote back to their families. And most of the kamikaze who got in their planes and just crashed them into ships and stuff, they were the students in universities, and they weren't engineering or math students. They were actually art students. They were literature students. They were romantics. Mm. And in their mind, they were defending something that they loved. They were defending the only place in the world, which was Japan, where things were beautiful, where people were beautiful, where the truth was. The way you get, an army to fight, young men to fight, and this goes back to Herodotus, is not to tell them, it's not hate that motivates men. It's the love of what they are defending. That's when you get a fierce adversary. If you're fighting somebody who is protecting what they love, that is way more formidable. So again, it goes back to these things that human beings. So even when human beings do terrible things, in their mind they're trying to solve a problem. In their mind, they have to. That's why typically when you see atrocities like the Japanese and what they did in Manchuria to the Chinese, those young men were taught that the Chinese were actually subhuman. You can't tell people that they're exactly like you, that they bleed, cry, laugh at the same things. They just speak a different language. If you do that, you're not going to be able to really wipe out a village. But the way you get people to wipe out a village is you've got to say they're subhuman. They don't die the way we do. You heard that shit from Americans when we were bombing Iraq and Afghanistan. You heard it all the time. They don't think of human life the way we do. Of course, that's a lie. I can tell that's a joke. But you would go crazy if you didn't think that. You've got to think that you're fighting evil. So maybe that's kind of where I think that. Yeah, I just think that that's probably what got me. I've always thought about. I've always kind of thought there's got to be a higher truth because I felt it, and I fucked up. Most of the time I was going the opposite direction and justifying all my bullshit. You get older and you're like, man.
What do you mean feel it? What'd you feel?
You just, you're a misfit. If you're a comic, it's a rock and roll lifestyle. You do whatever the fuck you want. You're out there, you're partying. You're like girls and booze and drugs. And if you and your friends, you surround yourself with people of like mind and you're all acting like idiots. But that even when you're doing that, you're like, I'll get it together later on.
Well, this is actually interesting because off mic you were talking about loss, but we weren't talking about loss in a biological sense.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously, I know there are different variables of loss in life. Doesn't have to mean biological death. And I think the grieving process is similar in a way. So if you're explaining how you were then to how you are now and thinking about these spiritual things and more deeper things, in respect to loss, did you feel like there was a loss of identity in becoming someone else? Does that make sense?
I think life has a way of humbling you as you get older. And more importantly, I think you get tired of, I'm a pretty honest person. But you're always, when you're really honest, you're lying about, there are certain areas you're lying to yourself about. Could be in a relationship you're in. Could be in what you choose to do for a living. But we tell ourselves a lot of bullshit because, man, it's hard to be a Spartan across the board because it's all self-restriction.
Well, there's no way.
It's all one big no. Don't eat that, and all that. But you get tired of that. And so what I decided is I want to be radically honest across the board about everything I'm doing. Everything, man. I don't want any secrets. I want people to know exactly where I am. And if I've made mistakes, you'll know about that too. You just have to ask me and I'll tell you. So that is when you feel congruent with who you really are. That's when you start to feel like you're more powerful. So you ever hear this expression, there's like the shadow, the Jungian shadow, right? Which is really that side of yourself that you're hiding from people. It's like that side you don't want people to. You put all your insecurities in that little guy.
I think he's downstairs
you
right now.
You keep him over there. I'm not. I'm on a podcast. You got to see. This is who I am. Things are great. That's in truth. You can make that misfit, that person you're ashamed of. You bring that with you, and that becomes your friend. That informs your expression. Don't hide it, man. But you have to come to terms with it. You got to come to terms with why you are that way. Have you ever met somebody and we probably always have you ever met somebody who you have a friend who's very, very honest, very successful, very radical? So Joe Rogan's that guy. Rogan is very honest. Yesterday he called me and we were talking about stand-up and he gave me advice. He goes, "Can I be honest with you?" And he gave me some advice on some stand-up I was doing. It was so inspiring. And I ended up writing one of the best bits I've ever written right after that. But he's that honest. Like if he loves his friends, he's going to tell you something that's totally inconvenient. He'll be like, "You're not working that hard." Like, because he has to, otherwise he can't hang out with you. He has to tell you that if he loves you. So what happens if you don't come correct with someone like that, if you don't come congruent with who you really are with somebody like that, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be off it's like when you see a beautiful woman, right? Why do guys have problems talking to a beautiful woman? What's going on when you can't talk to a beautiful woman? I'll tell you exactly what's going on. you're approaching her, you're trying to pull a fast one on her. You can't come up to her and say, all I want to do is have sex with you. I would crawl over broken glass just to get to you. I just want to see you naked. Because that's what happens to guys. You see a woman and you're just like, holy fuck, there's a biological response to a beautiful woman or in a bar, or you're just overwhelmed by her beauty or whatever it might be, right? You're a young man. And so because now you're trying to act casual. You're like, what's up? How you doing? But it's a lie. But it's bullshit. It's bullshit. You're already approaching her under false pretenses. Right? So I think that's why guys have trouble talking to somebody. I think all of us, men or women, you have trouble approaching somebody like that. But if you just come at them really honestly, like, hey, how you doing? That's all. No agenda. How you doing? Just want to see what you're like as a person first. Let me just see what's going on. I'm over, and you can be like, it's like I played this one time. This character is overwhelmed by this woman, and I didn't know how to play it. But then I was like, oh, I know how to do this. And I looked like I'd smelled something bad. I went like this because I was so overwhelmed. I was like, what's your name? And what do you do? Like, in other words, what the fuck am I? I don't even know what to do with myself. Like, I didn't even know people like you were made. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what happened? Like, this is like God put you on the earth to be like, this is what you could have been. You know what I mean? Or this is what you could have. And you're like, I suck. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's funny. You see how you're laughing? Because that's honest. Mm-hmm. So, again, when we talk about this stuff, it all goes back to being honest.
And I think that's important in regards to what we're talking about a lot of things right now, but when it comes to dealing with loss or death, or whatever the hell it is, that honesty is obviously important to other people, but it's almost just as important, if not more important, to be honest with yourself. I feel like the easiest person to lie, you can lie bullshit other people, but how easy is it to lie to yourself?
Oh man, I mean, yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Most of us, and it's not your fault. It's so hard. Mm-hmm. Most of us are living in a house of cards. Most of us, it's just hard, man. It's just, life is hard enough. And also you want to be tactful, and also you want to be convenient, and also you want to keep the harmony in a room. So you can't go in there and go, that hat that you're wearing makes you look like an elephant.
Yeah.
I'm not attracted to you anymore. I got to go buy. You just don't do those things. But sometimes that's the truth.
But for me, when I've gotten through shit, that I think that sometimes I think I'm pretty honest to myself, and I think that's what drives me nuts, because when I am so honest with myself, and then when I still do things that are wrong, that I know are wrong, I put myself sometimes in a deeper hole because I know I'm doing it wrong. Like sometimes I wish I was just ignorant and wasn't so honest to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know what to do sometimes. I mean, I know that's the point.
Maybe that's the truth too. There's also something like that too. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say here.
And that's okay. I've said this over and over again. I mean, maybe I'm talking to myself right now. I think I'm giving my own therapy session, but like, it is okay to say you don't know. It is okay to give yourself a little grace.
Well, as dudes, we're not raised that way. Like, as dudes, I got to have all the answers. That's my joke. It's like being a guy's exhausting because you got to wake up every day and be like, today's a good day to die. I got all the answers. and in truth, we're like, I don't fucking know what to do, and I'm terrified about everything.
Well, the perfect example of that is my podcast, where I think I'm like 70% women and talking about a topic about death.
Wow.
And it's definitely not because of my face or anything like that, because I don't barely show my face.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get. So to talk to someone like you, who is a man and is expressing yourself in many ways, I think that's important. And I think there's this facade that, and it goes back to, again, I think being honest, there is something about men just and opening up. And
well, I've always been obsessed with masculinity. And what I mean by that is I've always been obsessed with the notion of courage. And I think men, our biggest fear is that we're cowards, and our biggest aspiration is to be a hero. And I would define hero as somebody who puts something higher, a higher principle over even their own flesh and blood, their own, this vessel, willing to die for something, defending. These are the kinds of people that we kind of seem to reach for or emulate. But I don't think that's a man or a woman thing. That's just a human thing.
Right. That's what I was
saying.
saying.
Get older. I'm 56. I'm at my age. I don't know if it's funny because I'm raising two sons. I don't know anymore that I agree with my traditional sense of masculinity. I do think men have certain proclivities. I think we do have that DNA. If you really want to know how men are, we are hunters and protectors. And that's important to us, man. I got to be able to provide, and I got to be able to protect. And if I can't, If you want to make a dangerous person, you want to make the most dangerous man in the world is a man who can't provide for his family and who's humiliated and who doesn't feel significant, because because what they'll do is they'll pick up a gun. Then they'll be real significant. So, that is very deep, and that's very deep for us. And I wish more women understood that. Like, it's my joke in my stand-up. I'm like, when a man meets another man, there's only one question in the room. And in the beginning, it's like, could I kill this motherfucker? That's it, right? Like, if we were in a room naked, who comes out first? We all do this, and then it's a negotiation from there. And I think that that's very real, because that is how we had to survive. I have to cooperate. The minute you guys all came in, we all got along right away. We had a whole language. Did you see how we did that? We were all like, bang, bang, bang. I know this guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. We were all laughing, and we have a language. We didn't have to. We just know each other, right? I don't know you guys, but I know you guys, and that comes from, I think, millennia of hunting in groups and having to rely on each other to survive the winter, and also to defend the children and the women we love from the other guys in the tribe over there. And I really think that's as deep as it gets. I really do. That's why loyalty for dudes is so important.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how much of that is affecting, again, what we were talking about in regards to I'm not saying all men, like I feel like I'm pretty expressive at this point in my life for the most part, but how do you get men to, or do you think it's even important for men to open up?
I do think it's important for men to open up in a way, but I think that's
a balance.
So it's interesting, because I don't know how old the man is. So
the man.
In other words, like, I think you go through phases as a man, just like as a human being.
Yeah.
And so it's not as important for us to be open for guys. Like, I don't need you to hold me, and I don't need to talk my problems out. I actually don't need that. What I really want is to be, if I know I'm building something and I'm getting really good at something, and I'm getting really, especially if I know at the end of the tunnel, I'm going to be significant. I'm going to be important. I'm going to be one of the best at what I chose to do. Money in the bank, power, I'm going to feel good about myself. I always say, if you want to learn about yourself, get really good at something. That's my advice to men. I don't speak for women, but that's my advice for men. Get really good at something, because the process you will undertake to get very good at something, you will have to come up against your shortcomings. You'll have to confront all your weaknesses, all your liabilities. So I don't know that being emotionally open is as cathartic to men. When what really matters, they'll crawl over, like they'll starve and freeze and be miserable if they know at the end of that they will be a Navy SEAL. They'll be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. They'll be one of the best in the world in the NFL. They don't need, hey bro, I don't need your therapy. I'm on my way somewhere. I got a goal. I got a prize. I'm going to kill it. That's what I care about. I'll sleep on that wood floor. If I see that light, if I see that prize, that's how we are, I think.
But I wonder if I'm off kilt here. How many people, maybe this is a bad example, people that get all the money in the world, you see actors, celebrities, this or that get to the pinnacle, and they're still fucking miserable.
Well, now this is why we're talking.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe when I said expressing, I think we're talking about grief, this, that, dealing with shit, it's all kind of relative. Some of them, I think they're all the same modalities, which is why I respect this conversation. But when you're going through something and you don't go back to what we were saying, be honest with yourself. So maybe it's not necessarily having to talk about it and tell the world on Dead Talks, but I think a lot of that is diversion by focusing on a task and doing it, which is still expressive and good. You're going to learn things throughout it, but are you just kicking the real issue at the side? Probably.
There's plenty of that. You get to your goal, you climb to the top of the wall, and it's the wrong wall. You don't like the view, whatever those expressions are. Mm-hmm. We see this all the time. I know very, very accomplished people that have no peace of mind, right? It's that Jungian expression where if you don't, I guess, bring the subconscious to the conscious, it will act out as fate in your life.
Yes.
It's a great saying, right? Because
I like that.
You do have to confront it does go beyond accomplishment, status, and power. Now we're getting into the spiritual.
Yes.
Now we're getting into life will humble you. And if it humbles you, you are blessed.
And Mr. Rogan, if you're listening now, this is what we wanted to hear on this podcast.
I think so. I think that this is where these expressions like walking with God, right? Like I walk for a higher truth than what man makes. See, I loved what Jordan Peterson said, and I didn't get this from him, but this is something that I heard when I was a young man, and it really drove me because I read Man's Search for Meaning and all those books. But Jordan Peterson's so great at articulating these things, and he said, "Is there anything more real than pain?" And pain that's pretty real, right? Like you lose your dad in 9/11, you feel that, man. That's pain. That's real. That's about as real as it gets. Your innocence is shattered, your happiness, all that stuff. But what is more real? And he said, well, there is something more real. It's the meaning you derive from that loss. And it is the ability to transcend not only that loss, but how about this? Be thankful for it. Look at it like it's a gift. Stephen Colbert lost, I think, 2 brothers and his dad in a plane crash. And Anderson Cooper, you can see this interview. He looks like he's about to cry. I think he is crying. And he said, "You said God's punishments are gifts. Do you really believe that?" And Colbert said, "Yes, I do. But you wouldn't understand that if you hadn't gone through it. You just wouldn't, man. And you sure as hell don't understand it while you're going through it,
The ironic part of what you just said there, so I'm getting like a little...
I saw you got emotional.
Yeah, no, because I told you a second ago, I just went through that with my mom. It's like very fresh. Like I don't even know what I'm doing here, to be honest, because I come back west and they're back east, and it's a whole other story. But you said that you don't realize it when you're going through it, but for me personally, and maybe it's because of my prior experiences, even what I've gone through, I always think there's so many other people that have it worse. Like even what I've gone through, I always think that someone always has it worse. And even when my mom was in the hospital and I'm with my sisters in the middle of it, I don't know what it was that took over me, but I was intentionally trying to be present in that moment and aware of the beauty that was happening within this. Even by my mom's bedside.
Pretty impressive.
Even by my mom's bedside, I couldn't help but look at my sisters. Obviously, this pain of looking at them upset and having to do this, but the realness, I'm being honest with you, is I was like, this is incredible. This is incredible the way me, my Jacqueline and Gina are working together, and Ken and Jeff and my whole family, the way we are
you
just
were practicing gratefulness.
I really
you saw
was.
what was right.
I really was. Besides seeing the improvements in my mom and having a blend of having faith, even with the, what we don't know, but the dynamic of me and my sisters, like even to date, amongst everyone that was involved, but like, I understand high emotion, chaos and all that. Emotions run high. There's conflict, disagreement. That makes sense. There was none of that. And I can't tell you how blessed I am to even have that, because looking at how we operate. It's a huge
blessing, because you wouldn't understand that if you hadn't gone through. Look, it's like whether you believe in God or not, let's use the universe or let's use God. I don't care what you use. But I think the truest thing the way to walk through your life is to not ask it's not about what you're trying to get from the universe or / God. It's what God / the universe is trying to get from you. And whether you think God exists or not, I don't care. But if you think about whatever happens to you, especially the bad, in some ways you should say thank you, because it's causing you to grow. If you attach the meaning, like I'm going through hell and I see nothing but clouds, but let me see who I am as a result of this. Let's see who I am and who I will become. And let's see let's see if I can not only suffer well, but come out of this a better person, a stronger person. That is the gift. And I think when you really understand that and you embrace that, man, you're not afraid anymore. You're not afraid. You're just not as afraid, because we all go through life as afraid. But that's the gift of realizing no matter what you do to me, no matter what happens, as long as I walk my righteous path, then I will be stronger. I will get closer to God, or at least the truth. I don't know what you want to call it. God, truth, I don't care. But I'm going to get closer to that, because that's all I care about. It's all I ever cared about, really. but I was fucking around. When I was younger, I was like, man, hey, bro, I got to dip my toe in the pool of sin.
You're about to say balls?
Yeah, I got to do my thing. I got to teabag life a little bit, right? I mean, you know, and I don't like that person. I think it's a great thing that I look back on. People like me. I was a good person. Okay, I was a good person. I'm sorry, I was a good person. I gave to charity and I did all my stuff. You know, I'm not
Check the boxes.
and I don't take credit for that. I don't take credit for that. I have a natural empath in me. Okay, that's just how I am. I hate hurting people's feelings. I don't like that stuff, right? So I get it from my mother. I was born with that. That's nothing. I don't deserve any credit for it. I was just fucking that way. I don't like. I don't like. That's why honesty is. You know, like I just protect people. I grew up all over the world, so I was always moved. So I wanted to make friends, and the way I learned very quickly how to make people happy about what they were proud. I could see right away what people were proud of and what they were ashamed of. I picked up on that right away, and I would highlight what they were proud of and protect them from what they were ashamed of. So they wanted to be around me. That was my survival mechanism. But I had that inherently. So it doesn't mean I'm a good person. But I look back on the person I was, let's say 3 years ago, and I look at the person I am now, and I like this person so much more than that person.
Don't you got to be that person in order to realize that?
I think so. I was lost and now I'm found, right? I mean, who was it? Thomas Aquinas, who was a complete cad, a real rascal. I love using words like this, guys. I mean, a real rascal, okay? A cad. Sorry, a ne'er-do-well, if you will. And I'd say nincompoop, but not even. The point is, he then became a saint. Why? Because he realized, that ain't where the gold is, motherfucker. It's over here. The point I'm trying to say, guys, if you don't accept God in your heart, you're going to burn in fucking hell. Is that too much for everybody? You'll be thrown in the lake fire, and you're going to go all the way down. And you think it's deep? It ain't even deep, bro. When you're like, ah! It's like, you're going to scream louder. It's going to get even hotter. But I'm not burning. Sorry, everybody. What were we talking about? That was a commercial break. Yeah. Brought to you by God.com. Brought to you by soldierofchrist.com.
Soldierofchrist.com.
Sorry, everybody.
That's this is actually a good transition.
Thanks, man.
What do you?
Let's clip that and put that on TikTok, huh?
Yeah, Jeff, Max, can you guys get on that right now?
Thanks, guys.
Oh, good God. I just realized after you started.
I get a little tired of being so fucking deep and heavy. Sometimes I just want to take the whole checkerboard and throw it right in the fucking air. I'm kidding. I don't play checkers. I play chess.
I thought you said judo.
Judo?
Mm-hmm. In regards to, you just brought up God and the soldier of God, whatever you just said.
Yeah.
What do you think happens after we die?
I have no idea. But I think you should behave as though something does happen.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I will say that. I'm less concerned with that in some ways and more concerned with what my friend Tariq Azim has a great thing. He said when his father died, he loved his father and he saw his father die. He held his father when his father died. His father suffered from mental illness, but his father died with, he could only describe the feeling, which was contentment. He was content. He had a smile on his face. And he said, on your deathbed, you take only one thing with you, a feeling. And he said, and I don't want that feeling to be a regret. I want to be content. And I think it's a beautiful way to do it. And, he said, he's Afghani and his family lost everything. And he said, you should always be preparing for your death. And that's what Socrates said. That's what Plato said. And that's what anybody I think I listen to. You prepare for your death. Even Miyamoto Musashi in the Book of Five Rings. Anybody that Sir Thomas More in A Man for All Seasons. That idea. I won't compromise my values. I won't compromise my principles. I am more than my appetites. I am more than this vessel, right? That's why we kind of like think about people like Gandhi, and we think about Malcolm X, I think said, I won't live long enough to read my own biography. And man, we all go, damn, that's a bad motherfucker. But he was fighting for something that was bigger than himself. And when we see people that actually do that, we just go, see, that's the other thing. Why is it that we revere those people? Why don't we revere Julius Caesar? Why don't we revere the people that were so powerful? Why is it that Jeff Bezos is really wealthy? It's cool. But when we talk about, I don't know, a carpenter who was tortured on a cross, we're like, or we talk about Malcolm X, or we talk about Mohandas K. Gandhi, who walked toward the violence and just believed in passive resistance. There's something about those people that we revere, that we talk about, that we build statues to. It's interesting. But why? Why is that? Well, I think because we inherently know that dovetails with the truth. That dovetails with the truth more than, say, the man who becomes powerful in this realm, rich, and all those things.
So it goes back to the being of finding meaning and standing for something and going for it. And the fact that that's revered must mean that it's rare.
It's very rare because it's really hard.
It's very hard.
It's very hard. We talk about those people with hushed tones. Why? Because they shame us with their courage. And they're just as afraid, man. You can, if you watch YouTube, Nelson Mandela, when he was sentenced to death, you can see him swallow. And he wasn't brave. He acted brave, but he didn't feel brave.
Well, that's the thing. I think there's a misconstrued concept with being brave. They think it's an absence of fear, but being brave is just continuing through fear.
That's right. It's composure. It's grace. That's what grace is.
And I have a story from back east in Jersey. I remember I'm not going to say the name, but he was always the kid in town that could beat the shit out of everyone, was always fighting this or that. And we got called in I wasn't fighting. I wasn't even that guy, but I was by his side. And I remember he put on his boots. He was putting on his boots, and forgive my language, but he was like, "These are my pussy stomping boots." And I was like, "Okay." I was terrified of him, even though he was on my side technically. And then he looks at it, and as we're walking up to where his brother was going to fight, as we're walking up, he's like, "Man, I always get so nervous. I always go scared and nervous before I go." And in my head, I'm like, that was a big lesson for me at whatever 15 I was, 16. I was like, damn, this is this is the guy in town that was the guy that beat the shit. There was the tough guy. I'm not supporting all this stuff, but it was just like a switch. Like, oh, even he's scared. He's the one that
you ever talk
takes
to these
down.
SEAL Team 6 Delta Force guys, UFC fighters? They're all scared. If you're not scared, you're a fool.
Well,
if you're not, it's just that they learn how to kind of like I don't, I've talked to them, but it's like they step outside themselves and just observe their fear. They observe it. They go, "This is my body getting ready." You talk to yourself. "This is my body getting ready for action," whatever you do.
Yeah.
But don't tell me that you're not afraid. It's always, now you can get addicted to that fear.
Yeah.
You can get addicted to that juice, but
What's that thing called? There's something called where you do one really, really incredibly hard, difficult thing a year. It's a good idea. It's like Seneca used to sleep. He'd take I think a month, and he would just drink water and eat bread and sleep on a cold stone floor because he wanted to see. He was like, "This is what people are afraid of. Like, if I lose everything, I'll be all right." It's like, this is what people are afraid of. I can do this. I think that's important because that's why I think these conversations are important, to talk about other people's experiences, your experiences, and your perspectives, because you can learn through other people and learn in preparation, not maybe preparing for death in some similar way, but the idea that if you don't have to, until you go through these situations, you're not know how you're going to react. But if you prepare for it and maybe put yourself in difficult situations, you can build calluses in your strength of it. Does that make sense?
I think so. And then you'll be proud of yourself, right? Like if you go through some shit and you get through it,
yes,
you're proud of yourself. You're just like, I'm tougher than I thought.
100%.
That's the other thing. If anybody's going through a lot of shit, a loss of any kind, first of all, understand that no one escapes that. And this is part of your book. It's the chapter in your book. But the next chapter in your book should be, you should be able to look back and say, I think true loss is something like being in the middle of the ocean in a rowboat with no paddle. I mean, you don't see land and you don't know how to get back to land. The nature of chaos, when chaos visits you, is it comes in a form you don't know how to fight. You don't have a game plan. You don't have the weaponry. You don't have the armor because you've never seen this before. And you have no idea how you're going to fight. You have no idea how you're going to win. You have no idea like what is actually going to happen to you. You don't know if it's going to last forever. You don't know anything, man. It is the great unknown. And I think within that, when you are there, if you can just say to yourself, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm not going to let this stop my momentum. I'm not saying if you lose a child that you don't hit rock bottom and you're on the ground in a fetal position. I'm not saying that doesn't happen to you. But hold on, man. Hold on. And please know that that those clouds will part, even if it seems impossible. They will. And align yourself with the truth. The truth. Take truthful action. Speak truthfully. And do the hard things. Take the pain and know that it's going to be better for you. Know that is God, the universe, higher truth, whatever you want to call it, asking you to grow in a way you never thought was possible. Because, man, it is the worst. All you want is it to not happen. All you want is to go back to the Shire, man. It's all you want, dude. You just want to go back to the safety. But that great saying, even in the Garden of Eden, God couldn't keep a snake out. God couldn't keep the devil out. So it's a beautiful place. But there was danger still lurked. Chaos was still there. Chaos was there, bro. And so even in the Garden of Eden, you weren't safe. So if you're looking to be safe, well, that's not a good way to go. It ain't a good way to live your life, man. Live dangerously.
It's going to get dangerous regardless.
And leave a good-looking corpse. Okay, guys? You know what I'm saying? Leave a good-looking corpse. This is brought to you by Corpse.com. The thing about me is I hit my chest first. I'm kidding. Of course I don't. I hit my glutes. I hit my thighs. It's all about my lower body and my posterior chain. The last thing I hit is my fucking chest, guys. Pec deck? No. Sorry. I'm an athlete, okay? I'll do some bench, but not a lot of it. Push-ups with resistance, you pussies. All right? How's that sound? Okay, sorry, that was a quick.
So those
that was just for torso.com. I said corpse, but it's torso.com.
Listen, we've talked a lot about deep shit.
Where's my camera?
I feel like you've been a jack in the box.
What's that, though?
I feel like you've been like a jack in the box where you're winded up and at any moment it's just going to come out.
I get tired of being all fucking deep. It just drives me nuts.
It literally just came right out.
What am I, Tony Robbins? Am I a religious Tony Robbins? What am I, a priest? Fuck. And that's also important. Humor. 100%. Not taking yourself too seriously.
Why do you think I have you? Why do I think I love talking to you on here? Why do I think I have comedians on here?
God, I'm such a good fucking guest so far. Yeah. Jesus. Are you guys writing this stuff down? You better.
Oh my God, I'm sweating. By the way, there's no breeze in here.
I know, bro.
You're sweating us out.
That's how you have to deal. You can open that door. Right
No, it's cool.
And that door, actually.
I think I don't know what it is. The camel.
It's better. If you open that door right now, and you'll be amazed at the breeze you get.
I know you're in. This is a beautiful town. I'm not even going to say where you're at right now. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I live in a mansion, everybody. Yeah. I live in a mansion, not near the common cattle. If you're a pauper, don't even bother unless you want to work in my house as one of my staff. You can pull that back, or are you afraid? Oh, the light, yeah.
That's actually a world's difference. Sorry, guys. We're getting too deep here. I'm sweating my ass off right now.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Well, I do want to ask you one question.
You can open that door, too. You can open that one behind me.
Oh, my God. That's fantastic. Sorry, guys. I'm catching my breath right now. That breeze is enormous.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, Bryan. Before I get you out of here, what you mentioned earlier before that I asked you if you lost someone in your life, and there's obviously people that have come and gone.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned you're thinking about spirituality and stuff like that. So when you get older, do you think about death, whether it's you or people around you more now?
Not really.
No?
No, I think about my parents who are 83 and 82. I'll lose them. But I don't think about my own death much. I don't think it's helpful. I think I'm too concerned with my children.
Right.
I've got a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, and I have a year and a half old. So I just want to be around for them. But, it's something about having children where I'm 6th place. It's like, because the mother of my children, the mothers of my children are more important than I am. My children are more important than I am. And I think that's part of maturation too. You get older and you're like, I'm vain. I try to work out. I try to trim my beard. I get gray. I look like shit. I'm like, what are you going to do? I'm calcifying and stuff like that, but I fight it and I want, but that's a losing battle. But, there's something about children that humbles you because you're just afraid to lose them. And you're afraid, I don't want to go anywhere until I've raised them. I just need to stick around till my son's 18 because my boys need me because I got to teach them that life is a kick in the fucking nuts. And I'm going to be a bigger kick in the nuts. I just want to teach them things that I didn't know. But so what I do with my children is I kind of try to build some mythology around who they are, right? So with my son, I would say when he was younger, to motivate him, I'm a big believer in kind of, so I would say things like this. He'd be within earshot and I'd be talking and I'd be like, my son's a grinder, man. That kid won't give up. When he starts something, he doesn't give up. He just keeps going. And he'd hear that. And then I'd hear him say to his friends, I'm the kind of guy that doesn't give up. So you're building this persona, or, with my daughter, I'll say I have these nuanced conversations, which is true. I have these nuanced conversations with her. She's layered in her thinking and she looks at both sides. And so I believe in kind of acknowledging a spark that I see because they'll fulfill that. So instead of like,
I love it.
I love that expression, your children come through you, not from you. So I don't try to impose who I am on them. I think that's, my daughter's way too strong-willed anyway for that. But my son is a little more, he's my son. So he's going to he wants to please me. But I don't want to be a tyrant. And you can become a tyrant without even realizing it to your children. You just can. Your expectations are too high. You're trying to make them what you weren't. You're trying to, I think you have to be very careful with that. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't like the idea of discipline. I like the idea of inspiration. And there's a big difference, I think. Inspire your children. Lead by example. And then there are ways to be very creative so that they can start to learn. There are ways to impart the principles they need for life in a subtle, roundabout way. Let them kind of discover it on their own.
100%.
That's kind of what I like to say.
If you lay it down too hard, I'm sure I can see them kind of being maybe resentment and down the line, who the hell happens.
Well, some kids do well with, real rigidity. Some children do very well with a military dad, with structure. This is how we're going to do it. You're up at this time. I'm going to kick your ass. Some people respond very well to that because you're giving them rules. Those people go into the military a lot of times, law enforcement. Some people really love order and structure. But you have an artistic child, and they're not going to respond that way. They're way too sensitive. For sure. You got to be careful because you don't want to stifle their creativity. So I don't know. There's no blueprint. And by the way, I'm improvising it as I go. I don't know.
That's what you're saying before, obviously in a much different tone, baby. We're kind of just figuring it out.
Well, I think you lost your father when you were 12. My son is 12.
Yes.
And I just spent the day with him. So I think about that. The worst thing I can think of is him not growing up with me because I would worry so much that he wouldn't figure it out. But you did figure it out. You did figure it out.
You had a lot of help.
Yeah, you did, but you did it. And, so it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. Well,
that was the interesting thought about, having kids. You're saying you're too busy thinking about them, but that's the other side of it, Like if it's even, to me, I don't have kids, so I can't relate in any capacity. But the thought is, I can't. If I was like, I can't go anytime soon. Like my kids need me. That's when I felt like maybe the mortality question would come into play. I'm not trying to plant that in your head, by the way, but that was just my thought about it.
What is what it is. When were you born?
89.
What month?
March 17th.
March 17th. I'm not doing the.
I was just say where you going with this?
I'm not in the horoscope shit. I have no idea.
I'm still pretty sure you're hitting on me. I can't really tell. I think that's still happening.
Scorpio?
Yeah.
So hot.
Your legs have gotten wider and wider as the podcast is happening.
Are you a Scorpio? And I point my toes. Well, my horoscope.
I feel like we should both be doing that. My pants are a little too tight for this right now.
Bro, not me. I got good flexor muscles.
Yeah, I know. I need to get on that.
Fuck that is.
Flexor muscles?
I don't know, dude. I don't know all the muscles, bro. What am I, a biologist? I'm just a bodybuilder, okay? I didn't get my biology degree. I clearly just do bodybuilding. If you guys have any questions on fitness, I'm the guy. Come to fitness.com/Bryan Callen for 20% off. I won't train you, but I will Zoom with you for $1,000 for 15 minutes. But believe me, you want to get shredded, I'm your guy.
Brought to you by Dead Talks.
Brought to you by Dead Talks. I've done 3 commercials for you. You're welcome.
I know, thanks. I'll expect a check at the end of it. Bryan, I appreciate you doing this, man. As I usually say at the end, if you have any last words, let me know. But also, this will be out Wednesday. I don't know the date. So in case you want to plug anything that's after, what's the date of Wednesday? I don't know what that is. Next Wednesday. Whatever. Thank you.
I'll be in Salt Lake City at Wise Guys. So come check me out September 1 and 2. Only if you like to laugh way too hard for over an hour. Okay, guys? Because I'm not just deep, but I'm hilarious. Why? Because I'm super talented. Hey, Bryan, how long did it get you to get funny? Like, what was your thing? I was funny the first time I did stand-up, everybody. Sorry. But it's true. That's right. It got a lot of laughs, and it just kept getting better from there.
Bryan Callen, ladies and gentlemen.
Bryan Callen, guys. Bryan Callen.
Dead Talks. We out. Thank you again. AKA, go on.
AKA the Black Panther.
Okay. Cut.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.